exercise your abdominals. Let's take a look now at a couple of reps off the Swiss ball. Okay, let's mention a couple of things about form here when you're performing the crunch off the Swiss ball. The first thing is you should try and make sure that the center of your trunk is the axis of rotation here in this exercise. Make sure you don't bend forward at the hips every time you perform a crunch. I should say, make sure you don't flex the hip joint every time you perform a crunch. You should be crunching, curling up your midsection. The axis of rotation should be the middle of the midsection, as you can see here with this arrow, not at the hips. Okay, another thing about the crunch. When I see people in the gym doing the crunch off the floor, for example, most people are bringing their head forward. They're thinking of bringing their head and looking forward when they're crunching. But what you should be doing is thinking of bringing your head straight up. As you can see here in this picture, I'm looking straight upwards. I'm not looking forwards. I'm focusing on bringing my head up as I crunch. One little trick you can use, I think, to help to facilitate this type of movement is just imagine that there is a string attached to your nose and that there's someone in the ceiling pulling on that string, bringing your head straight up. Another thing you want to try to avoid when you are crunching is pulling on your head. A lot of people in the gym I see have their hands clasped behind their head and they're pulling on their head as they're crunching or doing sit-ups or whatever. But this could lead to neck strain, so you want to try and avoid this kind of thing. You can't really see that clear in this picture, but what I have here is I simply have two fingers lightly touching behind my ears as I'm crunching up. This is what you should try to do instead of pulling on your head when you're crunching. And one last thing to mention about the crunch is as you're crunching up, make sure your hips don't drop. Make sure you keep your butt up as you crunch. One thing I actually do when I crunch is I consciously try and raise my butt up as I'm crunching up. I won't actually be raising my butt up. I'll simply be counteracting any tendency I have to drop my butt as I crunch upwards. Okay, since body weight won't be enough for most people, especially with the low reps that are called for in this program, in order to progress, you're going to have to hold a dumbbell to your chest as you're crunching. One thing to mention, though, is that if you're going to use dumbbells, then you're going to have to brace your feet under something. Either have someone hold them or jam your feet under something heavy, so that as you're using dumbbells, you don't fall back over the ball. A variation of the crunch is the kneeling crunch using the cable machine. Once again, you should try and make the center, the axis of rotation, the center of your midsection. You don't want to be bending forward at the hips. One of the things I do when doing this exercise is I try and squeeze my butt cheeks together and push my hips forward as I crunch. Now this actually, I won't actually be pushing my hips forward. I'll simply be counteracting any tendency I have to let my butt drop back and my hips flex. Let's take a look now at leg raises. Okay, leg raises are pretty straightforward, but there's one crucial factor here. As you lift your legs up, you want to make sure that your pelvis is posteriorly rotated, or to say it another way, you want to make sure that as you lift your legs up, you want to press your low back as hard as you can into the backrest. This is how you involve the abdominals in this exercise. Now here you see me doing the exercise with my knees bent. If you want to increase the difficulty of this exercise, there are a number of things you can do. One of the things you can do is instead of bending your knees, as you can see here, you can extend the legs till they're straight, as you can see here. Extending the legs like this will increase the lever arm, thus making the exercise more difficult. Remember, at the top position, hold for a second or two, and make sure that in this position you are pressing your low back as hard as you can into the backrest. When you do that, you posteriorly rotate your pelvis, and this is what actually involves the abdominal muscles in this exercise. The act of raising and lowering legs has nothing to do with the abdominals, it has to do with the hip flexors. But when you press your low back into the backrest, when you posteriorly rotate that pelvis, that is when the abdominals are active in this exercise. Now, if doing the exercise with straight legs like this isn't difficult enough for you, there are a couple of things you can do to make it more difficult. One, you can incorporate longer holds in the top position. For example, you can hold this position for 10 seconds and do 2 or 3 reps that way. Or you could even attach weight to your legs by using ankle weights, or even a weight plate. Attach a weight plate to your legs by using a rope or a chain or something like that to increase the difficulty, or incorporate both. Tie some weights onto your ankles and hold for 10 seconds, a combination of both. If extending the legs all the way up is a little bit too difficult for you, you can do a slight variation to make it a little bit easier. The first thing you can do is not increase the angle at the knee as much. As you can see here, my legs are a little bit, the angle of the knee is a little bit more extended, but not completely straight. And the other thing you can do is bring your legs up with your knees bent, but then extend the legs and hold for a second. This will make the act of bringing it up a little bit easier, but then you'll have to hold here in the top position for a bit, and that will make the exercise a little bit more difficult, but not quite as difficult as if you brought your legs up straight the entire way. Okay, let's take a look now at sit-ups. I'm doing them here off an incline bench, holding weight to my chest for added resistance. There's not much to sit-ups. I just want to mention one thing. As you're going up and down in this exercise, you want to make sure that your pelvis is rotated backwards. This will keep your low back nice and flat. If you find during this exercise that you feel pressure in your low back, that means that your pelvis is rotating forward. So in this situation, what you want to do is one of two things. Either rededicate yourself to contracting your abs and rotating that pelvis backwards, keeping that low back nice and flat. And if you can't, that means that the weight you're using is too much for your abs to be able to keep that pelvis rotated back. So it's time to stop the exercise. And the last exercise for the rectus abdominis I'm going to show you is a variation of this exercise. Basically, what I call it is a sit-up hold. You're going to get into the same type of position as you would in a sit-up, but instead of going all the way down, you're simply going to go as far down until your body is parallel to the floor, and you're going to hold that position for a number of seconds. Once again, what you want to do is make sure that your pelvis is rotated backwards. You keep it rotated backwards in that position, keeping your back nice and flat, just like in the sit-up. If you feel pressure in your low back, once again, either make sure to rededicate yourself to rotating that pelvis back, or stop the exercise if you can't. Okay, as with the obliques, whenever the appropriate section in the workout comes up, you are to pick 2 out of those 4 exercises and do it for that portion of the workout. That brings us to the end of the exercise demonstrations for this video. The last thing I want to touch on very briefly to wrap up the weightlifting portion of this program is scheduling. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this program is designed for people who are willing to spend at least 3 days or more at this program in the gym. Let's put up a sample schedule and just take a look at it very briefly. Okay, here you have a sample 3-day per week workout schedule with workouts A, B, and C listed. As mentioned earlier, obviously you're going to figure out which days are best for you to work out. The only recommendation I would make is that between workouts A and C you have at least 1 day rest. That's because they're both lower body focused workouts. You can work out workouts A and B back to back, workouts B and C back to back, and I guess technically you can work out A, B, C back to back to back. But between workouts C and workout A, I'd recommend getting at least 1 day's rest between those 2 workouts. For people who are willing to work out more than 3 days per week, let's take a look at a sample 4 to 5 days per week workout schedule. Okay, here with this sample schedule, there's many different ways you can break up your week. Once again, that's going to depend on the individual and when they can or can't get into the gym. But once again, I'll recommend that after you finish with workout C, try and get at least a day's rest before you get back into workout A. Okay, that brings us to the end of the weightlifting portion of this program. I'm just going to finish off now by doing a quick review of some of the main points. The weightlifting portion of this workout is designed to increase your maximum strength. This will increase your speed and quickness on court. You'll be doing very heavy weights and low reps, with increasing periods of rest as the weights get heavier. Never sacrifice form in order to add more weight. Always make sure you maintain strict form during every exercise. When you first start this program, don't go all out right away. Don't go as heavy as you can when you first start to do these exercises. Make sure you have a little bit left in you. This gives your connective tissue a chance to adapt to the stresses of this type of exercise before you start pushing yourself a little bit harder. The workouts are broken up into workouts A, B, and C. They're broken up into more lower body and upper body focused workouts. If you ever have any questions or doubts about form, about how to perform any of these exercises, it is always better to ask than to just guess. If you have any of those doubts, it might not be a bad idea to hire a trainer for a couple of sessions and have him go through these exercises and exercise form with you. The weightlifting program is designed for people who are willing to put in at least 3 days of work in the gym. More than that is good as well, 4 or 5 days, whatever. Any less than that would not be ideal. And lastly, when you're doing these workouts and you finish workout C, I always recommend getting at least a day's rest before going back into workout A. Always get a day's rest between workouts A and C. Okay, it's time now to move on to the second part of this workout program, the bike workouts. The weightlifting program is designed to make you stronger and faster on court. However, it's not going to do you much good if you get tired after the first couple of rallies. The workout protocols for the bike are designed to allow you to maintain that speed and quickness over the course of an entire match. The protocols themselves are pretty basic and the principles are straightforward. The program consists of 3 separate types of workouts. Okay, the bike workouts are broken up into workouts A, B, and C, just like the weightlifting workouts. Workout A consists of a 40-minute steady state workout. You'll be on the bike for approximately 40 minutes after warm-up, working at a set resistance measured either in watts or in levels, whatever you have on your bike. The purpose of this is to condition you to work for an extended period of time and slowly increase your ability to work at a higher percentage of your maximum ability. Workout B is an alternating intensity workout. This workout consists of alternating blocks of 5-minute periods where you switch from a period of high intensity work to a period of lower intensity work. This workout is meant to condition individuals to begin to tolerate periods of a higher intensity workload and act as a transition from the steady state workout, which is workout A, and the intense interval workout, which is workout C. As mentioned, the workout C is an intense interval workout. This workout consists of several bouts of maximum intensity bursts of work, followed by short periods of active rest. The purpose of this workout is to condition the individual to be able to tolerate several successive intense rallies in a row without succumbing to fatigue. Okay, let's start by talking about the warm-up. I always recommend you warm up before any of the bike workouts in this program. The warm-up I recommend is described in this chart here and is appropriate for all bike workouts in this program. It lasts 15 minutes and the protocol is simple. You start at a very low resistance and slowly raise resistance every 2 minutes. At the 9:30 mark, do a high-intensity burst of work for 30 seconds, followed by 5 more minutes of low-intensity riding. At the 15-minute mark, you begin your regular workout, whatever that may be. One thing I want to mention about this chart and all other charts to follow is that the resistances listed here are only an example and are meant to act as a guide only. You will have to figure out whatever resistance is appropriate for yourself using these charts as a model. One other thing I wanted to mention about this chart and all other charts to follow is that I have resistance measured or listed in the charts as in levels and in watts. Most exercise bikes and gyms have resistance measured in levels, some have it in watts. I just wanted to list both depending on which you choose to use. Getting back to the warm-up, as you can see from the chart, I start nice and easy and slowly raise the resistance 20 watts or 1 level every 2 minutes. At the 9:30 mark, I do a 30-second quote-unquote sprint followed by another 5 minutes of easy riding in preparation for the quote-unquote real workout, which starts at the 15-minute mark.